The story of Silk Route or the Silk Route. Silk was very popular fabric in the West. This shiny, smooth fabric was the most coveted and expensive textile in the West. Making it was a long and different process. Silkworms were bred. The shiny silk thread from the cocoons had to be taken, processed, and then spun into thread. The silk thread was then woven into fabric. Though silk was made in China thousands of years, the process of making it was not disclosed to the outside world. Traders took the fabric to the West and made huge profit. The route through which silk was taken to the West came to be known as the Silk Route. So students, China invented the technology of making silk around 7,000 years ago, and these were kept a secret for many years. Some people from China who went to distant land carried silk with them. The path they followed came to be known as the Silk Route. The 6,400 kilometer long route linked the cities of Middle East and the Chinese capital. The route passed through the hostile terrain with the difficult mountains and desert. The Chinese traveled to many parts of the world and carried silk with them. The path taken them to travels and the traders came to be known as Silk Route. This route had many branches. Student, the knowledge of the silk spread far and wide. The rulers and rich people in Rome began to wear silk. The best known of the rulers who controlled the Silk Route were the Kushanas, who ruled over Central Asia and Northwest India around 2000 years ago. Their two major centers of power were Peshawar and Mathura. Taxila was also included in their kingdom. During their rule, a branch of the Silk Route extended from Central Asia down to the seaport at the mouth of the river Indus, from where silk was shipped westward to the Roman Empire. The Kushanas were amongst the earliest rulers of the subcontinent to issue gold coins. These were used by traders along the Silk Route. The Kushanas Empire covered northwest of India, includes Pakistan and modern Afghanistan, northern India. Kanishka was a great Kushana ruler. His capital was Peshawar. He also constructed a new city called Kanishkapuram. He expanded his empire and defeated the Sakas. The kingdom was wealthy and prosperous, and trade relations exist with Central Asia, Egypt and Rome. So this was about the Kushanas. Now next is the spread of Buddhism. Student, Kanishka embraced Buddhism after his invasion of Patliputra. The credit of spread of Buddhism goes to Kanishka, a Kushana ruler. He organized a Buddhist council where scholars met to discuss various matters. He came under the influence of Ashwaghosh, a Buddhist scholar. Impressed by his teaching, Kanishka devoted himself to the service of Buddhism. He organized a famous Buddhist council held in Kashmir. It was attended by scholars like Ashwaghosh and Vasumitra, and important discussions took place. Buddhist scholars now began writing in Sanskrit. Ashwaghosh wrote Buddha Charitra, a biography of Buddha. It was during this time that a new kind of Buddhism known as Mahayana Buddhism developed. Mahayana Buddhism had two different features. Now Buddha came to be worshipped as human figure and his idols were worshipped, whereas earlier Buddha was always represented symbolically like a lotus or a peepal tree. Secondly, the cult of Bodhisattvas became widely prevalent. Bodhisattvas were people who had to reach enlightenment. They could now teach people the worship of bodhisattvas became very popular. Kanishka took every step to spread Buddhism. He built many stupas and viharas. He propagated Buddhism to distant countries including Tibet, China, Burma, Japan, Korea and Central Asia. Buddhism also spread to other parts of India and countries like Sri Lanka, Thailand, Southeast Asia, Indonesia. Many monasteries were made in caves. So this was about the spread of Buddhism. Now next we will discuss Buddhist pilgrims. What do you mean by pilgrims? Pilgrims are men and women who undertake journeys to holy places in order to offer worship. Foreign travelers who visited India also contributed to the spread of Buddhism. Many pilgrims also traveled along the Silk Route to India. Fazen was a Chinese pilgrim who came to India in 399 CE. During the reign of Chandragupta II, he came in search of the complete copies of Vinaya Pitaka. He stayed here for 16 years. Traveling extensively, he visited all the places associated with the life of the Buddha and held discussion with Buddhist scholars for 3 years. He stayed in the imperial city of Patliputra where he learned Sanskrit. I King, who came after 50 years after Xuanzang, he came to visit places associated with the life of the Buddha as well as the famous monasteries. Each of these pilgrims left an account of his journey. They wrote of the dangers they encountered on the travels, which often took years, of the countries and the monasteries they visited, and the book they carried back with them. Yuanzhang, who took the land route back to the China through the northwest and the Central Asia, carried back with him statue of Buddha made of gold and silver and sandalwood, and over 1600 manuscripts loaded on the back of 20 horses. Over 50 manuscripts were lost when the boat on which he was crossing the Indus capsized. He spent the rest of his life translating the remaining manuscript from Sanskrit into China. This was also the time when the worship of certain deities, which became a central feature of later Hinduism, gained in importance. These deities included Shiva, Vishnu, and goddesses such as Durga, Parvati, etc. became important. Rituals, sacrifice and ceremonies had lost their prominence by this time. The idea of bhakti became important. This idea signified a person's devotion to God, a pure heart with all that was needed to worship God. Anybody, rich or poor, man or woman, could worship God. The idea of bhakti finds mentions in the Bhagavad Gita, a sacred book of Hindus and an important part of Mahabharata. In Sanskrit, bhaj means to divide or share. This concept was used to divert the word bhakti. Devotion was divided or shared or directed to the Bhagavad, that is God, establishing a two-way relationship between God and his devotee. The bhakta or devotee thus believed in devotion as he worshipped a single god or goddess. The bhakti believed that the praying with devotion and with pure intentions and pure heart would make them see their deity in the form he or she wishes. Because the deities were special, these images of the deity were often placed within special homes, places that we describe as temples. That you will learn more about these temples in the last chapter. Bhakti inspired some of the best expression in art, sculpture, poetry and architecture. So students, this was our chapter Traders, Kings and Pilgrims. I hope you all have understood. Now it's time to say goodbye. Take care.